You should look at your early childhood when you didn't have problems, you didn't have issues kind of going on in the world, and you were just in the middle of state of play, right?
Right.
And I think something that gets overlooked is, most kids, I've got a bunch of kids, but most kids like some type of building blocks, right? Like they like to stack things, they like to use their hands, they like, what was it? Lincoln Logs was big back in the day,
Yep.
Legos, these toys, right? Doing hands-on projects and having the hand-eye coordination to like want to build something, wanting to stack something, wanting to put something together, wanting to take something apart. Like that's the first like indicator that you've got some kind of talent in this.
Welcome to the Builder Hacks Podcast, your go-to destination for cutting-edge strategies, time-tested systems, and invaluable insights to revolutionize your construction business and elevate your life. Join your hosts, Nate Piper and Keith Meals, seasoned contractors who are not just in the trenches, but are also pioneering the future of the industry through Concord University. In each episode, we dive deep into the minds of the industry's most accomplished building professionals, uncovering their secrets to success and sharing actionable tips to help you thrive. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, our goal is to empower you to build a brighter future for yourself and for America. Tune in, level up, and let's build a better tomorrow together. This is the Builder Hacks Podcast. Build your future, building America. And this week, we really wanted to dive into, especially over the holidays. This is one of the questions that I got a lot, Nate. Is what determines or what kind of characteristics would a person who's going to be successful in construction have? What kind of interest would they have? So, what kind of things might they already do right now? What kind of things would they be a part of so that they would go ahead and look at it and go, you know what, this might be a really good fit. So, because I think especially for people who are younger, so, and we know how schools have gone ahead and done a lot of programming that you need to go to college to be able to go ahead and be successful. So, and I think that's where part of the question comes in is that a lot of times people don't get exposed to this. And there's people who have these kinds of interests, yet they get funneled into that college mindset that the school system really teaches them. So, I mean, I really want to say for anyone who's thinking about those questions, so I'd say, what are some of the key things that they might be interested in? That if they're interested in this stuff, you go, you know what? Let's have a bigger discussion. Let's see whether you've got more of these things. And maybe this is something that would fit for you to be in the construction trades. So, let's shoot off however many we can think of, Nate. So for things that might go ahead and apply. So, and I'm
Yeah.
going to throw it out to you. So what's one of the things that you think is a key interest? If you're interested in this type of thing, you might want to at least take a look at construction trades.
Yeah, I think, talking about school and, how it's not promoted and different things. I think it comes back to like your early childhood. You should look at your early childhood when you didn't have problems, you didn't have issues kind of going on in the world, and you were just in the middle of state of play, right?
Right.
And I think something that gets overlooked is, most kids, I've got a bunch of kids, but most kids like some type of building blocks, right? Like they like to stack things, they like to use their hands, they like, what was it? Lincoln Logs was big back in the day,
Yep.
Legos, these toys, right? Doing hands-on projects and having the hand-eye coordination to like want to build something, wanting to stack something, wanting to put something together, wanting to take something apart. Like that's the first like indicator that you've got some kind of talent in this. And it's male or female, it doesn't matter. These are
Right.
things that are like inside of you that if that was the first thing that you could do is just kind of like play with some toys and stack some stuff and then knock it
Mhm.
down and redo it, that's a strong indicator. And then it kind of like grows from there. And then you're like, do you like woodworking, right? Or do you like working with your hands, DIY projects, right? Do you like um, creating something that is in your mind and now you're trying to like figure out how to make it work or how to build it or expand it? Those are the next stages that kind of go into working with your hands. Because I think that working with your hands has got to be one of the top priorities of this
Definitely.
industry because you can't get into it and not touch something, right? It's
Right.
not like I'm gonna sit behind the computer and do it, you can. You just be called an architect, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
so you'll do the drawings and do that, but you won't actually physically touch it. And I think having something that you can physically touch and create it is almost like a necessity. Um, and
Definitely.
the other part of that too is like every person that I've seen that has done it, gotten away from it, and comes back to working with their hands, they automatically fall in love with it all over again,
Yeah.
like they were when they were a 4, 5, 6, 7 year old child. Um, so I think working hands, being hands on, wanting to stack things, wanting to create, wanting to do something else. I think that's probably a good indicator.
I'd say that's definitely one of those pieces. I agree with you entirely. I think that's something that hands-on creativeness, that wanting to be involved in things. And I think, like one of the things that pops into my head would be the next piece, I think, would be you love to problem solve. So like if you see that thing and it's you had something broken around the house, or there's something that you wanted to do and you didn't know how to do it, and you're like, you know what? I'll figure this out. Either I'll just go ahead and experiment and do it on my own and figure out what happens, what works, what doesn't work, what do I need to do to go ahead and change that? Or you might even be the person, I mean, especially with today's technology, you might be hopping on YouTube. It's like, well, I don't know how to do this, yet I want to figure this piece out. And someone, in most cases, a lot of times nowadays, has gone ahead and recorded a video about it. But that piece of, all right, I want to go ahead and figure this out. So that inquisitiveness, I guess, that goes with that. How does this work? How can you go ahead and do it? And I
Yeah.
think that would be another key piece. So is how does this work? If you're one of those people, whenever you see something, it's like, I want to figure out all the little pieces and parts that go together of why this shows up the way it does, why it goes from the beginning piece to then what it actually ends up like. So I think that'd be a really good thing, especially if you like puzzles. So things along those lines. So if you're someone that likes to sit down and figure that kind of thing out, so that would be optimal because you're definitely going to use it in construction, no matter which trade
Yeah.
you're in. There's always challenges. There's always pieces popping up where you've got to be that critical thinker. You've got to be that person that goes ahead and figures things out. And I think that's one of the, especially in today's world, if you have that ability, so you're so far ahead already, just stepping into it, even if you don't have the experience in the trades, just that natural inquisitiveness. That like one of my project managers I used to have, Lance. So Lance was one of those people that he used to hang around with all the guys whenever they were doing work on the job sites, the crews that were doing work, and he'd be asking questions like crazy, and I'd come in there like, is Lance looking to take over my job? I'm like, no, Lance just likes to know how this all goes together and how this all works. And he's very, like, for him, he's one of those people. He's a former Marine too, so we thank him for his service. And that was one of those things that he was really good at, is being able to figure out solutions to problems no matter what. And that's one of the reasons why he would stand around and ask questions. And actually, he always wanted to dive in and get his hands dirty and be doing the work like you were talking about before with the hands-on piece. And that was the piece I had to go ahead and pull him back from being a project manager. But that problem
Yeah.
solving thing, I think, is key.
Yeah. I think that's so important because it goes hand in hand, hand in
Hmm.
brain, um, to the whole solving the problem, but doing it yourself or figuring it out yourself.
Hmm.
So I think that's extremely impactful. I think the next thing on the list, would be like outdoor activities. Um,
Definitely, for
Meaning
sure.
something like you like to go for a hike, or you like to go snow skiing, or you like to go water skiing, or play outside, or be outside inside the elements. The thing that I found is that in the trade system, with the trades, that you're not doing it from your house. There is no work from home capacity
No,
that's going to go there, right? And you're going to have to venture out into the weather or into the outdoor activities
right.
to get to the destination spot that needs the help or the service that's needed. For
Hmm.
instance, this past week we just went through a nice big snowstorm, and in doing that, people had to get out and venture to a turn off water or provide heat and electricity and melt things. And so you have to be outdoor adventurous and okay with that to be able to be comfortable in doing the trades. And if you have that, then you're just one more step above, right? So when it's raining, you won't be screaming, I'm melting, because you've already built the parameter, the shell that's endured, that endurance can go out there and get the job done.
Yeah, it's I always love that. But I always love whenever I get the trades the days it's raining down here in Florida. Like, like for you guys in Dallas, like you'll get like an all day rain.
Yeah.
So at times, we usually don't get that unless there's a hurricane coming through. That's about the only time we get it here in Central Florida. And the guys it'll be raining in the morning or something like that. They're like, we don't want to come in today. We're getting wet. I'm like, hold on, you're the tile guy. You're
Yeah.
inside the house. I'm not expecting you to tile a balcony out in the rain. So it's like, come on now, let's get
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
So come on, do this work. So that is, I totally agree. You do, especially in like, well, in your area, Nate, because I mean, you guys go from the really, really hot extremes to these colder extremes that you're in right now. And I know in Florida, I mean, we go through those really, really hot and humid, and you've got to be able to weather that being
Yeah.
out there. So no matter what trade you're in, because unless you're only doing retail stuff. So and even when you do retail stuff, you're still doing cutting and things outside. So there's no question about it.
You're
But
always
that's
dealing with the element, you
yeah.
know? And if you don't have like a background in it, or you're scared of it, or,
Mhm.
you'll be hesitant to kind of go forward. And
Yep.
so,
Yeah, I agree totally. I think that's a huge key. So to be, and it's actually for me, it's one of the things that I love. So as I love being able to get out like that, because for me, being trapped in an office is like one of the worst things that can possibly happen. As far as that part goes, I can do a certain amount of office work, and then it's like, let's get out in the field, let's go do something. That was what it
yeah.
comes down to. Yeah. Um, and I think even now, one of the bigger things that's coming in, which actually plays very well, so with the younger generations coming through, so is a lot of the technology now that's being brought into the industry itself. And this can be so many different things. I mean, this could be literally like the younger people coming in using just their cell phones or an iPad or something along those lines whenever they're out in the field. For our communication, that's what we use for communication for our team is you've got to be able to use those pieces. You've got to have access to something like that because we use softwares online. So for our project management pieces, I mean, all of our information for our projects are being housed there. If you can do some basic things and in a CAD software, that actually ends up helping out because there's so many times where we've got to draw something up for one of our subcontractors or even a homeowner who doesn't know what this is going to look like whenever you're describing it to them. It's like, all right, you've got to go ahead and do this. When you can go ahead and create that really easily for them, I think that's a huge benefit for you. So, and definitely moves you further along in the industry. So, because that's where it's going. There's no question about it. I mean, one of the things I always look at is like all the low voltage things that are coming into the home. So for all the smart homes, so where you've got the smart thermostats, you've got all the smart lighting, so you've got everything literally controlled by touch pads anymore in a house. So the more you're comfortable with that and the more you like that, if you love that stuff, there's a huge opportunity on that side for sure, because that is definitely where the industry is going. So if you're someone who's grown up and you love video games and you love, computers, so there's definitely opportunities for you. So as long as some of the other things that we're talking about, some of the other traits that we're talking about actually suit you too. So this is just one more piece that goes ahead and builds on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the days were gone of this being a dinosaur business.
Yeah.
And we've grown as a society into technology and to using these tools in a better, more efficient way. And if you're into that, and even into, I was watching a video, a short on, I can't remember what social
Mhm.
channel it was on, but they were showing these new lasers that were coming out where they've got 8 different lasers pointing all at the same line so that you can line up perfectly. Now,
Mhm.
I like it and I don't like it at the same time because on one hand it's really cool and it's like
Right.
mind-numbingly stupid to be able to follow the line. On the
Right.
other hand, it's like, well, how'd you get the mathematical calculations to get that line
Exactly.
perfectly straight? And if you didn't have it, what would you do? Right? Like that
Right.
whole piece of it being lost. But having those tools are here. They're starting to come in. I
Mhm.
think I think the trades are probably one of the last fronts. If you've missed, computer science, and if you've missed or you don't really like doing those kind of pieces like zeros and ones and twos, um, you move into this new technology stream where you're starting to get different types of drills, impact drills. You're
Mhm.
getting into different type of saws and things of that nature. There's a whole realm that is going to be good, and if you're willing to dive into it, there's a whole upside. So,
One of the things I think of all the time with that is like my dirt guys now. So especially when
mhm,
they're doing the heavy stuff on bigger projects, not
yeah,
necessarily on single family homes and things like that, but when they're doing community development things, a lot of those guys, everything on there is GPS. So as
hmm,
far as how it's set up now, including like like on a bulldozer, the heights that the blade literally runs
yeah,
at to go ahead and cut to. I mean, those types of things, those are all key. Yeah. If you're looking at even photography, so of construction photography and things like that,
yeah,
drones, you've got to be able to use a drone. Oh, and
yeah,
it creates some of the best shots. So of work going on the site, especially for certain phases. So it's dramatic. Plus those, before and after shots and things like, I mean, it's those types of things. There's a huge place for technology. So
Yeah.
in the industry.
And it's coming with a full force, and it's not slowing down. It's not going to go
Nope.
backwards. For guys like you and I, we're having to embrace the new technology, but for younger guys that are coming in and they've never known how to do it the other way, that
Yeah.
you just adapt to what you already know, and if you're okay with it, you'll survive and thrive.
Right.
I think another thing on there, you have to be team oriented. You know, I I kind of take this one personal to heart, but you have to want to be a part of something, right? And you have to want to be, um, know what your position is and be able to, encourage others and work through struggles and just be a part of a bigger thing than yourself.
Hmm.
And I think if you have been, I don't know, if you played athletics and
Yeah.
you have been on a football team or a baseball team or a soccer team or water polo or volleyball or, any of these sports where you have to depend on the person next to you. This is a great environment because you have so many different team members that are associated with doing a project or multiple projects or just your one trade. You're going to have to partner with other people to interact with them. And so
Right.
having a team oriented mind frame and doing team oriented activities should be a strong characteristic to help you go further in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's like one of the things I always talk about because homeowners will ask me all the time, or is it your own crews or you have subcontracted crews? And we typically use subcontracted crews for 98% of anything that we do on
Hmm.
any of our projects. There's a few things that we do internally, but very few. And with those pieces, one of the keys is like a lot of the guys that work with me have worked for our company or with our company for over
Hmm.
a decade. And that's that teamwork that gets created because now you know what someone's going to do. A lot of times they'll call each other if there's a challenge just to let them know that this is what, hey, you're going to see this whenever you get here. So, or if there's a challenge, this let me know and I'll go ahead and come back and take care of what we need to take care of to make it happen for you. So that teamwork is huge because I mean, that one of the numbers that I've heard for years and years. So there's over 50,000 pairs of hands that are involved in building any new home. So between all the different components that are coming in, the work that's being done on site, all of those different pieces, that's a lot of teamwork. To go
Hmm.
ahead and get coordinated to go ahead and do that. And if that's something you love to do, I definitely, if you love those team sports, you love being a part of that. You love being, once you get older, you love being the person teaching and training. So it's a great place. There's no question. There's lots of opportunity for that in the industry. So, and it definitely helps you become successful, raises you to another level. So whenever you're looking out for everybody else at the same time.
Now, I will make one small caveat. Inside of being on like a football team, there's one position that's not really a team player, right? And that is the field goal kicker. So if you thrive to be a field goal kicker, you're probably not into a team sport. That and golf, right? You know, so those are the two caveats.
There we go. No, no, one of the other big things, like this is one of the things that I really look at. And this does definitely relates back to the team piece. So at the same time, so and it could because it comes from the teaching that's put in. So is if you love precision work or very detailed work and you've got that eye for detail, like if you're the person that walks in somewhere and catches all the little things that aren't quite right, that could have been a little bit better. So that, it would have been nicer if they did this in a slightly different way to get a little bit better result. Those are some of the things, that is huge because in this industry, I always look for those types of players. So the ones that are because that's one of the things that I am. I'm huge detail. Part of it comes from who I am naturally. Part of it comes from some of the places where I've worked. So like working at Disney and things like that. I mean, all the little small things are key to creating the experience. And I've taken that part and taken that to construction. So as far as that goes for our company. And that's one of the things that I look at. So if you're someone who loves doing the end pieces, the making it look pretty, the taking the time, if you're the person who always, when they colored with their crayons, was always the person that was coloring inside the lines and had to make it perfect and had to be the right color, and you're attempting to shade things in, or maybe you're that artist, so and you're catching all the little details. So whenever you're going ahead and doing something like that, so, if you have the patience to sit down, and I don't know how much this is done anymore, but I know back whenever we were younger, Nate, I mean, people would do a lot of things like building models and things like that, like model cars, along those lines. If you're the person who likes that type of work, so who looks at all the little pieces and it's got to be just right. And this sticker's got to go in this place and this piece has got to be glued in just this. If that's the type of person so that you are, or you love crafting. So those types of things are all things that take a lot of patience and a great eye for detail to get them exactly right. So if those are some of the things that you've enjoyed in your life up to this point, this is something to go ahead and take a look at because literally every trade that we've got outside of maybe the concrete guys, so are really detail oriented. Even they've got detail, just detail at a different level, is
Yeah.
what it comes down to.
They got the detail level of good enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's within a quarter inch. We're good.
Yeah. They play the game of horseshoes and hand grenades. They just have to be
Yeah,
close enough, you know?
that's exact. Everybody else will make it look right.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I've talked about this before, but I think another characteristic, you got to have physical activity, right? It kind of goes with the outdoor activity, but
Mhm.
just being physical, like moving around, and
Right.
whether you want to lift weights or you want to play a sport or you want to go hiking or climbing or skating or being physical. The trades are not a couch potato type of industry, right? And
Yep, definitely.
you have to be in momentum constantly. And if you're not, then you're not going to be able to be successful. For me, I can't sit in one location for too long. When we go to, Keith and I go to places where we have to, be in meetings for long periods of time, and I get really antsy sitting in a chair for like
No
2, 3
question.
hours.
Yeah.
And
If
so,
you watch Nate and I, we're the little fidgety kids. So in the
yeah,
class, because we're like, seriously, is it time for break yet? Can we
yeah.
get up and
Can
do
I
something
move
else?
around? Can I walk? Can I,
Yeah.
can I stretch? I can't do it. So like this past week, we've been snowed in, or we haven't been able to kind of really get out into outside, and I couldn't stand it. Like I had to get out and start driving on the ice because I had to get out of the house. Like I've got to constantly be moving. I can't sit there for long periods of time. But that comes back to physical activity, right? It's like you physically have to be moving and you physically have to be kind of like performing some duties. So if you're one of these people that gets antsy and you can't just sit there for long periods of time, this might be a place where you get to fulfill some of that.
Yeah, no question about it. And I agree entirely. That, especially with, I mean, I'm thinking right now as I think through everything, and every one of them, you've got to love being able to be active and doing things. This is not the place. If you're a couch potato and you love being a couch potato and just sitting there, that's one of the first things I would say, do not do this at all, because that's
Yeah.
not the way this is in any way, shape, or form. Even when we talk, like Nate talked about before, for the people who want to be in an office, things like an architect or something like that. Even for us, the architects and engineers still get out in the field, so they still go ahead and walk job sites. Whether that's, for me on a remodel case, or whether it's new construction and they're having to go out and check and see how things are working out. So depending on there's always activity going on. There's no question about it. You've got to
Always.
love that piece because and even more so in some of the trades. So you're going to be active all the time. You're moving all day long. So whenever you're out there. One of the other things that actually ties back into what I was talking about before. If you're extremely creative, so like say you love to sketch or design, you're the person that's always doodling in your notebook during the day. So or maybe when you get home, that's the thing that you love to do. You like going ahead and drawing things. So no matter what that might be, or you're the my wife is one of those people who loves whenever she's at the house. I come home all the time and the house has been redecorated. So things have been moved around, all the furniture's moved around. We've got new things here, new things there, which unfortunately I'm a guy and unless I trip over, I probably won't even notice that it happened. That's what it comes down to. But if you're one of those people who loves doing those kinds of things because you love using that creativity, because you can see things that others are unable to see and you can actually go ahead and get them down on paper, things like that where you're able to go ahead and customize anything, whether it's a room on an internal basis, whether it's going ahead and drawing up a building that someone goes, oh my God, just even if it's just the front elevation piece, oh my God, I love the way that looks. So that's someone who in this industry can be huge because most homeowners are very much visual, which means they need to see it first before they can envision what's going on. If you're the person that has that vision on the front end that can see it before somebody else does, it's key. I mean, I know like the designers that I use, the interior designers that I use, I always look at that piece. I'm always in amazement. And I've been in this industry for how long now? I mean, that's what homeowners always ask me, like, can you go ahead and help us with design? I'm like, I don't know. I said, if you choose something, I'll tell you whether it looks right or not. I said, that part I know. I said, I can pick that piece. I said, but being the front person on that and then picking everything and putting it all together, I said, not my strong suit.
Yeah. it's one of my favorite pieces.
Is it? Yeah.
I don't know because for me, one of my talents, one of the things that works for me is being able to have vision and kind of see, what
Hmm.
it looks like and then creating it for somebody else. I personally love that piece of it where it's like figuring out the person, figuring out what it is that they want to experience, figuring
Right.
out, what the end result's going to be, and then start putting all the things together. And I like
Right.
it on a small level and I like it on a giant level, from,
This is
big
what this
dirt.
fireplace is going to look like this is what this skyscraper is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Or, here's where it's at dirt and trees and kind of
Yep.
like it's so weird for me because I always kind of like as I'm driving around, I'm always driving, I'm always going someplace and doing something. I'll just see pieces of land and I'll be like, oh, that would be great if that was this, this, this. And I
Mhm.
expand it and I can mentally see the image of what the end result would look like in
Right.
every empty space. Um, wish I had all the capital to be able to do all these projects, but that's a whole other problem.
The
But
capital and the team. So yeah.
yeah, well, I think you can build a team if you have the capital. So, but I think having that creative idea is an extremely important part, and I think that moves down into my next thing, which would be learning and development, right? Like you can have the creative, you can have the physical, you can have all the other characteristics, working with your hands and doing all that. But if you're not into the mind frame of always be learning,
Yeah.
then you're going to get to a point where you just tap out. Like
Yeah.
I this industry it's been so creative over the last 100 years, right? And I've gotten to a point, I think I've talked about this before on different podcasts, but you can literally see the evolutions in homes and in building materials over the last 100 years, just from when indoor plumbing came in and how they use pipes and how they use insulation and
Yeah.
how they use framing and how they like the entire system, and it keeps changing and it's going to change
Mhm.
again. And we've gone on a 25-year run on current things, but every other year they're changing something. So you constantly have to be learning
Yeah.
new products, new ways, new systems. You have to love experience. You have to like want to try out a science experiment and try to test what does this do and how does this work? And you
Mhm.
have to be curious. And if you're not curious and if you're not learning, if you're not developing your skills or trying to be better at the thing that you're doing, then you just get to a point where you're stagnant, and that's not good for anybody. So if you're that type of person that's always wanting to learn and be something new and kind of create it, and you're diving into it, this is a perfect environment for you to be able to have those skills, right? Because it's like, and I don't know much about computer science, right? Because it's all zeros and ones, ones and zeros, whatever. But I get a feeling like it's the same thing over and over and over again, right? Like it's so mundane, it's so like you're not you're not being able to learn something new unless you're learning a new computer language. I just feel like the trades and the industry has a lot more to offer and being able to develop your mind and develop, what you want it to be. So
You might be a little biased, Nate.
that might be,
And it's that kind of leads into I think the final thing that I can think of. So when we were brainstorming these pieces, so is the innovation. So, and it kind of goes with the learning piece that you're talking about and that development piece. So is the innovation, the new things that come along. And I look at it like it's funny because we're in a house right now and the house is literally turns 100 years old this year and we're doing a renovation in it. And we open up the walls because some of the things that we're doing require us to open up the walls. They still have knob and tube wiring. So in this home, and it's one of those pieces that like the electrician we don't see it very much down here because Central Florida is relatively new on the building side of things.
yeah,
So you don't
yeah,
see that as often. Whenever I
yeah,
used to live up in Pennsylvania, so entirely different story. And like this house had a fuse panel in it with actual fuses. That was what the electrical panel was and stuff like that. And the last time I saw a fuse panel was in Pennsylvania. So
yeah,
it's been that long. And we were looking at those types of things, but it's like that constant innovation that's going on. And I mean, like in today's world, we're talking about like the green building pieces that are coming in. We're looking at so many different ways to go ahead and do like masonry and concrete and things like along those lines that make it much greener than what it is at this current point. All the renewable energy stuff that's coming in. You've got all
Yeah.
the solar panels, so all the ways to go ahead and recapture. We're recapturing rainwater and things like that. So all of those types of things. So are all huge pieces, that no one's looked at before, the sustainability side of things.
Yeah.
So if you love that kind of innovation, so there's no question. So this is a good place to be, at this point right now.
Yeah. I love the sustainability piece.
Yeah.
Um, and the reusing. We have a lot of these older homes here in the Dallas area because they're hitting 100 years old or they're
Yep.
getting to close to being 190 plus. I got some of the homes that we work in were built in the 20s and the 30s, and
Hmm.
it's interesting because we get to see kind of the overtime like add-ons and additions
Yep.
and like I've had a few projects where they have what you're calling bob and knob wiring, aluminum
Yep.
wiring,
Hmm.
and they still have the old panel, but now they brought in their new coax
Yep.
and they're trying to like jump this and do that. It's like, man, just got to bring it up to code, you know?
Yep.
And that's the other thing. The building code keeps changing, right?
Hmm.
And so as the building code changes and it gets better, then processes change. And so the innovation piece of always thinking like, what is the next best way to do this is probably one of the most important ones. It kind of goes along with the development. It all goes together. And
Hmm.
so,
And it's part of the key. So it's like all these pieces that we're talking about. So all these different character traits or things that you might be interested in ahead of time. If these are the types of things you're interested in, you don't have to be interested in all of them. I think we ran through about 10 of them.
yeah,
But if you're interested in a few of them, you know what? I would actually say, if you've been interested in a couple of them or more, so if you've been interested in even more, then I would say you definitely want to have a conversation with us about it. But reach out, find out at least
yeah,
what the possibilities are, because you could end up overlooking something that would be right up your alley, that you're gonna love to do for the rest of your life. So, and that's key. I mean, like Nate said, when one of the pieces in the beginning that he talked about with that wanting to work with your hands and being able to see things being created and things along those lines. And the people that do that a lot of times they'll come back to it and they'll fall back in love with it again. If you can find something now that you love and that
mhm,
you can stay involved with, it's a much more fulfilling life. There's no question about it. I mean, I've done enough other businesses and enough other industries outside of construction. I was that person that whenever I did it, whenever I was younger, I was in high school and college and things. Those times there, I love doing that stuff. Got involved in other aspects of the world and other industries. So whenever I came back to construction, it was literally that, you know what, this is where I've always wanted to be, and I'm happy I came back. And the great skills that I learned doing the other industries are great because I've been able to apply them in this business. Yet at the same time, I love this piece. I love almost every one of these traits is something that I've got or something that I'm interested in. There's no question about it. And if you've got a lot like this, take that time to sit down with us. Reach out to us at Concord. So Concord University, for those of you who haven't seen that, there'll be a link in the show notes so that you can reach out to us and find out how or what the right area or what the next steps for you could be. And that's definitely key, is to be able to go ahead and at least explore it. That's what we always say. You know, take the opportunity now, especially if you're younger, to figure out, is this a good fit for me, or is this a route I want to at least go ahead and sample the buffet, is what I always say. Do I want to sample the buffet and see what they've got at this table, before I go ahead and make a choice, and move down that road? So that may or may not be the right thing for you. So take that time. So to go ahead and reach out, talk to someone in the industry. So whether it's reaching out to Nate and I here through Concord University, through our social medias, if you know someone who's in the industry, talk to someone who's in the industry and find out the things that they love about it. So the things that things that they would like to see different about it, get the full picture. So don't go for just the glossy, rosy stuff. So find out the things that are the challenges and see whether you're okay with the challenges, because every industry has them. There's no question about it. Anything you want to add, Nate?
no, I think, you know, go forward, explore.
Mhm.
That's it.
It's definitely key. One of the things we would ask you, so, is don't be greedy and feed the needy. Feed those who have a need for this information. So share it with them. So send it to them. So have them hop on a podcast either way, just so they can listen to it. I think that's a key piece. So for everybody, we would really appreciate that for everyone who listens. So that's the best way you can help us out. So is to let other people know about it. So until next time, so make sure so you keep on moving forward, keep building this nation, keep building your life. So let's go ahead and keep building America.